strokes to the back of the hand, all the way from the hand up to the shoulder 3 times.
So this might give your client little goosebumps. That's okay. We are stimulating lymphangian contraction. Okay.
Use hand washing shoulder technique to create anterior and posterior stationary circles towards the axillary nodes.
So we're going to slide one hand under the posterior deltoid. We're going to have the other hand on top of the anterior deltoid, and we're going to move in unison. This is very similar to our bimanual stationary circle that we did on the neck, but it's just cupping around the shoulder on both sides, posterior and anterior. 5 times. And what's next?
Abduct and support client's arm and use stationary circles to stimulate the axillary nodes 5 times in 2 hand positions.
Here we go. So we're going to bring our client to a position like this that feels supported. Is that comfortable for your arm? So we're going to get a little up close and personal here, and this is important to have discussed with your client ahead of time. If you have a client that has breast tissue, you're going to ask them to secure their chest, and you may even need them to hold the sheet up against it, because you're going to have your hand in 2 positions. One hand position is going to be here, and the other hand position is going to be here. Okay, so this is with client consent. I believe according to your practices, you have to get specialized consent for this, like a written consent. So make sure you've discussed this with them before you go in to do it. So we're going to start with the pinky in the axillary fold. So we're literally in the armpit. We're going to pull up on the skin with a rotation in towards the axilla and release. So we don't want to pull back. So after we move in, we're just going to rebound and let it bounce back on its own 5 times. And we're going to do the same thing here 5 times. So again, this is really light. Yeah, so both sides. So the chest drains this way and the arm drains this way. So for here, we're going to be moving in, and if we're down here, we're moving in this way. Okay, so what's next?
On the medial brachium, use dynamic stationary circles moving from antecubital to axilla 5 times.
So we're just going to do same stationary circle from the antecubital to the axilla.
Why do you call those stationary circles if you're technically moving up the arm?
So dynamic stationary circles. I've already apologized for that.
I was just
I'm
double
kidding.
checking.
I'm teasing. It is a horrible name, but I didn't name it. If I named it, it'd be called something way goofier than that.
I think they should call it DNS.
So, yeah. All right.
It looks like it's about 3 of the stationary circles
Yeah.
to travel up the arm.
It's going to vary depending on the body and your hand size, so there'll be lots of factors.
Two for you.
2 for And this will be my last pass. So what's next?
Number 5, reposition client's arm with hands supinated and resting on the table. Stationary circles and or pump strokes moving from antecubital to axilla.
I'm going to move down here. I know we're cramped up here a little bit. So now I get to choose whether I want to do pump stroke or if I want to do stationary circles. I'm still going to go from here to the axilla. So I like here with the hand supinated, I like pump stroke. Okay, and I can make this a dynamic pump stroke. It is. It's the same stroke, just on a different part.
I struggle with that with the pressure.
This one is one of the harder strokes. There are 3 parts to it. There is sock puppet. I'm going to use my silly names. Sock puppet. There is making contact with the webbing, dropping your hand down, and then you get the pump. So it's this movement, which is why it's called pump stroke.
What
And
would
then
the
you're
stationary
dragging back
circles
out.
Look like
Stationary circles
with that, yeah.
are going to be the same thing we've been doing. I'm in a little bit of a weird hand position, but that's okay. Yeah, so these are your stationary circles. Okay. You guys want to see the pump stroke again? That one, I feel like it's better body mechanics for this part of the body, which is what you'll have to decide whenever you're in here, is how does this feel on your body? All right. And what's next?
Reposition arm with hand pronated and resting on the table. Pump strokes to the
Posterolateral is what it's supposed to say. I don't know what's actually on the piece of paper.
posterolateral side of the arm,
Alright.
moving from antecubital to axilla.
Can I place this on your stomach?
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll do that so I can get this side of the arm. So I'm going to start down here at the antecubital and I'm going to pump stroke all along the posterolateral side. And since I'm just using one hand, oftentimes I will rest my other hand here just for a little bit of support. How would you rate my pressure?
Probably right around the 1.
Perfect. So one of the nuance of this particular technique is that whenever we come in and out, we are dragging the skin, and that's not a movement we're used to doing in massage. So it may feel a little strange, but we are puckering the skin on the way out. All right, what's next?
5 sets of 3 pump strokes to the antecubital area, above the antecubital, at the antecubital, and below.
Okay, so we're gonna turn this hand back around. And I like to use pump stroke here, but you can also do stationary circle. So we're gonna start above antecubital, at the antecubital, and below. And 3 repetitions of this. I'll give you an alternate if you don't like that pump stroke. Well, you can do something that sometimes we'll call thumb screws. And rest your hand here. I'll take my thumb, hook in, and rotate up like you're spreading playing cards. On either side, above and below. So above and below. Okay. What's
Scoop
next?
stroke to the forearm. It says the forearm,
The
Moving
forearm, the
towards
forearm.
each antecubital in
Sounds
5
about right.
times in each position.
So scoop, we're gonna start with sock puppet. We're gonna drag the fingers all the way around and we're gonna close the thumb and push at the end, okay? So we're gonna follow it around and push. And you can do this on both sides, but you want not to bring it back around to this side. You want that push to be on the anterior part of the forearm, so it's more effective when you come around this side. Does that make sense?
Does
So-
that pressure still feel like a 1?
I think because it looks like it's not, right? I think that's where I'm struggling the most. Cause I'm
So this is very light here. That's barely touching. So the thumb just anchors to move this around. Then the thumb closes and the most depth happens at that little push at the end. Does that make sense?
I think she's exaggerating it too. So
I
it
am
won't
a
seem
little.
Like,
What do you feel
Okay.
about one in your own words?
It's a scoop. Oh, in my own word?
Yeah, I feel like
I
that's
just
how
stick
I
with
remember.
swoop. Scoop. Swoop. I like swoop. Swoop's good. So All right. So then we're going to go back and catch it by working stationary circles up the anterior. So we just basically moved any fluid that was pulling up in the back of the forearm. We moved it around to the anterior side. So you can either use stationary circles or you can use pump strokes to come back, and I describe this as catching it. So you move it around to the other side, and then you're going to clear it out by moving it to the next drainage point, which is going to be the antecubital nodes. And I am using a little bit deeper pressure now when I'm doing this, just so you can get a sense. So here's your real pressure. Better?
Mhm. How do they feel? Very light.
All right. So next.
Use thumb screws, dynamic stationary circles with the thumb to the wrist dorsum of the hand.
So we're going to do that same movement. We're going to stretch the skin across and rotate like we're spreading out playing cards. So I'm exaggerating again. So I'm going to go to my little micro movements. And the lymphatic vessels are really interesting because they stop in the center of the knuckles of the fingers. So basically, it pulls up in the top of the hand here, but there are different types of lymphatic vessels in the palm of the hands, and they have lots of lymphangians, so they contract on their own. So we don't have to do a whole lot to the palm of the hand. So our job is to move it back towards the wrist. So we might, and then once we get it down here, we're going to move it around. So we're going to turn the hand over, and we're going to do the same thing in the anterior wrist. Okay, what else?
At 10, it has use thumb screws on the palmar surface of the hand. It sounds like
That's
we almost
best.
think we didn't have to.
Yeah. So when I said that, I meant right here, this section only.
Okay.
So this section only. We don't need to come all the way down into the palm of the hand. There are some techniques if you happen to have somebody that was swelling, like maybe they slammed their finger into the car door, for an example, and they have swelling in one of their fingers. Whenever they're ready, you can also just work that little finger proximal to where the swelling is, and you can encourage lymphatic drainage here. I wouldn't recommend that for a full body session though. It feels weird. All right. And then we're going to work our way up. Is that next on your form?
It talked about the optional stationary circles to the fingers, and then rework entire upper extremity from wrist to shoulder.
So we're going to go back, rework all of this, and reverse. I'm going to supinate, stationary circle.
And we're
And-
doing both arms today?
Yeah, and we're going to try. If we have to bleed over into tomorrow, that's fine. So for our partners, what time is it?
It is.
It is 4:10 now.
4:10.
It's 4:11.
Fine.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. It's 6:30. Okay.
Man, that's perfect.
All right, so we're gonna work our way all the way back up in reverse. We're gonna do, I'm just gonna do one quick pass.
Are you doing something wrong in particular?
Mm-mm. Actually, it feels pretty good. There was no injuries or anything. I didn't feel any lymphedema, any edema, nothing of that nature. So then I'm gonna come back up and I'm gonna work in the axilla. So I'll repeat that technique. I'm just gonna do 3 of these for the sake of time.
Why is everything done 5?
5 is the magic number in lymphatic drainage. It's 3 in every other practice, I feel like, right? 5 to 7. So if you're doing MLD, a lot of times I'll do 5 to 7. I always feel like I can only do 5.
On the way down and then
Yeah.
5 on the way back up too.
Yeah, it takes so long.
Guys.
And we're gonna be up here.
No, it makes sense considering how light you're going. If you did a lot less reps of it, it
Yeah.
wouldn't really do as much.
Yeah. All right. And just for an optional, we can go back up and do our shoulder collectors from this position. So that shoulder collector we did before is a little bit nicer for your body mechanics in this position. Okay. Yes.
I used to work in a spa like many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they did look about it bring in packages.
Yeah.
And these ladies bought like $2,500 to $1,000 worth. I was telling my partner.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like mixed with skin rolling. Have you
That
tried that?